All right, fantastic. The interface between Zoom and Facebook has been fixed. Yay. Good afternoon, Facebook land and District 73 and beyond. My name is Kim McCarthy. I am a candidate for state representative for District 73 here in Ohio. That's Greene County, the western part, which includes Fairborn, Beaver Creek, Bellbrook, and Yellow Springs, as well as the townships that surround those cities. So I come here every Friday at noon to share a little bit about me, help voters get to know me in this age of COVID where we can no longer get out into the community like we used to. And it gives me a chance to discuss the issues that we face and help you understand where I stand on them, and hopefully help you have a better understanding of some of the issues we face as well, because we all know there's plenty of them and they're not simple issues a lot of the times. So today I'm going to be continuing the conversation on HB6. Last week we had members of the Sierra Club kind of talking about the nuclear side of the story and what those plants needed and how we move forward. And this week we're having people from Green Energy Ohio and Energy Optimizers USA who are going to talk about what the policy has been up to date for, or up till now for the state, and then what we should do going forward instead of HB6. So looking forward to that. But before I start that conversation, I'm just going to update on what's going on with the campaign. Firstly, of course, my opponent is still involved in the HB6 scandal, and he still is saying nothing on his page. It's crickets over there. Not sure whether he's actually in the race still or not. And one of the big reasons I say that is because we had our candidate forum this week, hosted by the League of Women Voters. This is a tradition going back decades where candidates sit beside each other and are asked non-partisan questions by the League of Women Voters, and the event is televised and shared across both cable TV and the internet. And this is really the only opportunity to do that. There is no other forum that has this kind of reach or history. My opponent did not show up. So I had to answer the questions by myself. What a travesty. What an insult to the voters of this district. It's an insult to his opponent if he can't gather it up to sit beside me virtually and answer the same questions as me so that the voters can see the difference between us. Unbelievable. It's an insult to the hard workers at the League of Women Voters who put so much time and energy into this event to bring voters the information they need to make an informed choice. Unbelievable, so disrespectful. And if you're watching this, Mr. Lampton, really shameful. The entire Republican Party, every candidate in the Miami Valley that we've been able to ascertain did not show up. So it wasn't just Mr. Lampton, it was a party-wide decision to not show up. This has never happened before, never. Are they too scared to face the public to talk about what happened with this corruption scandal? It's obviously another piece of evidence that Mr. Lampton is a yes man. The party tells him not to show up, and what does he do? He doesn't show up. Let me tell you, if you know anything about me, I am people before party. I act on my values, not on what anybody tells me to do. So the Republicans don't care about the voters of this district. Mr. Lampton doesn't care enough to show up to answer questions about his campaign and candidacy. Disgusting. Anyway, moving on. So volunteer opportunities with the campaign. We are having our postcards arriving in the next few days. So if you would like to grab a packet of postcards and send them out to your neighbors, you can do it at home, maybe spend an hour doing it. It would be helpful for our campaign and help to spread the word so that we don't get a corrupt individual elected into this seat to represent us. Somebody who's going to do the bidding of a party and a corporate buyer. Not good. All right, so that's about it for my intro. I am ready to bring in two people, Jane Harf, who is from Green Energy Ohio, and then Belinda Kenley, who is from Energy Optimizers USA. So, whoops, sorry. Oh, and I am inside today, not on my porch, because I'm having my chimney replaced and it's very loud. They're actually still on lunch break, but I thought they might come back while I was still doing this. So I did not want to have to move midstream inside to get away from the noise. Who knew that taking a chimney off a roof would be noisy? Of course it is. All right, so here come our guests. All right, hello ladies. So welcome to Jane and Belinda. I will just introduce them reading from my bios I have here for both of them. So firstly, Jane Harf, she is the Executive Director of Green Energy Ohio. She has been in that position since 2017. So Jane's been engaged in energy and environmental consulting with clients who include the Environmental Law and Policy Center, the Ohio Environmental Council, and the National Wildlife Federation. So back in 2014 to 15, she served as a director and spokesperson for Ohio's Energy Future Tour, a collaboration among businesses, trade associations, nonprofits, and local governments designed to showcase the positive impact of renewable energy and energy efficiency throughout the state. And if you were paying attention to our group, Greene County Voices, we did have that group, that tour go through Greene County in the fall that we attended. So that was a really good event. So welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the chance to talk about these important issues.
Good. Great. I'm glad to have you here. All right. And then secondly, we have Belinda Kenley. So she is a last minute sub for Gregory Smith, who got called away. So you may have seen his name on our Facebook page and wonder why Greg is such an attractive woman. So Belinda.
Thank you.
Belinda is the of Energy Optimizers USA. She's been with that company for 10 years and she has a lot of government experience. So she's worked in state government years and has been an elected member of Centerville City Council since 2008. And she is active in public policy issues and campaigns. So welcome, Belinda, to you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good, good. All right, so let's begin. I guess we'll start with a little bit of the history of Ohio's support for renewables. I guess going back as far as the Strickland administration, which was the last time we had a Democratic governor, right?
That's right. Senate Bill 221 was enacted in 2008. And Senate Bill 221 during the Strickland administration, and that legislation established the Renewable Portfolio Standard and the Energy Efficiency Resource Standards for the state of Ohio. And those are very important policy ideas that are really very common. 30 states across the country have a Renewable Portfolio Standard. Most of the states that don't are in the South. 14 states have a standard of 50% or more. And what the standard does is set a goal. And in Ohio, our goal was 25% by 2025 originally, which was ambitious, but doable. And there were interim steps along the way that the utilities had to meet. There was a 2-year freeze on that program between 2014 and 16, but then it came back in 2016. There have been other attempts to undermine it or delete it. And House Bill 6, of course, is the most recent and unfortunately successful attempt to do that.
Right.
And, you know, this is not a political issue. It's an economic issue. It's all about job creation, protecting the environment, saving our citizens money. So it's a shame that it's become such a hot political issue. Individuals from both sides should be concerned about clean energy.
That's absolutely true. And Green Energy Ohio works with many companies, many individuals across, the ideological spectrum, across party lines. I really appreciate that comment, Belinda, because we too often do couch it in terms of conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, and none of these issues, should be looked at through a partisan lens.
Right. Well said.
Yes, I mean, we all have to breathe clean air. We all need clean water. We all need a climate that is hospitable to human life. And
That's right.
if we don't make those changes, it's going to be bad for all of us. So it sounds like Ohio isn't being as progressive as they could be with the 25% we were going for. Some states are all the way up to 50%, but it was still kind of.
I think again, we can argue over the percentage, we can argue over the timeline. There are a variety of ways to get there. For some states, it's actually a voluntary target. It's not a mandate. So there are a lot of variations on the approach. But I think the most important thing is that we need to remember is that even though at the state level, we don't have the support that we would like, we have enormous support at the local levels. Cities, towns, they're committing to 100% renewable energy by a certain date. They are taking on very impressive sustainability initiatives. So in some ways, they have sort of filled the vacuum that has been created at the State House. And I'm sure in your area, there are many stories that could be told about that work at the local level. And I'm sure Belinda's been involved with it.
Yes, in fact, Kim and Jane, you probably know this already, but Greene County Public Libraries has implemented an all LED lighting interior. We've worked with Sugar Creek Township, and they have done the same thing. The city of Bellbrook has upgraded their lighting to be very energy efficient. Bellbrook Sugar Creek Schools, Greenview, and I think we've worked with, and Centerville schools, of course, have all made progress in making their facilities more energy efficient and sustainable. And again, it's about saving dollars. Those save taxpayer dollars. And so we feel that it's really important to look at it, not just from the public policy side, but also, of course, the dollars, that we all are paying in taxes. It makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. And I think energy efficiency may not be as sexy as a wind turbine or a solar panel, but it is probably the most important thing we can do. You don't want to put solar panels on your home without doing an energy audit to see where you can save money in terms of all the things that Belinda mentioned, lighting and insulation and windows. The phrase, the kilowatt you don't use is the safest, cleanest, and cheapest. So we need to, and energy efficiency is also a huge job creator. Of the 112,000 jobs in Ohio that are linked to clean energy, 80% of them, I think, something like that, a very huge percentage, are in the energy efficiency field. And I'm sure Belinda can tell us more about that.
Yeah, just our little company, we've been in business about 11 years, and our little company has already, we have 23 employees right now, and we've been able to help public entities, schools, and local government save more than $76,000 in utility costs just in that time period, while also creating great jobs. From our 23, we figure that there are really about 150 individuals who have worked on our projects, and they can be blue collar, white collar, good paying jobs. And that's what Ohio needs. And so these clean energy, this House Bill 6 makes it very challenging for clean energy policy. And so we hope that this bill will be repealed. And we've been actively working, as Jane has, excuse me, to encourage legislators to repeal it. And let's take a look at a different, better bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Repealing House Bill 6 is pretty much the top priority for the environmental and energy community. And what we need to look at it as an opportunity, as Belinda said, to see what comes next. What do we replace it with? I personally, I think we should wait to replace it until we have a new legislature, because this is the same legislature that passed it.
Yes.
And I'm a little concerned about what will happen, especially in a lame duck session after the election, when all kinds of mischief
Yes.
often occurs. So I think we need to begin
Yeah.
talking about what we want to see going forward. But the
Yes.
first step is the repeal.
So
Yeah.
I would just
Yes.
encourage anyone who cares about our state, really, the future of our state, to contact their state reps, state senators, and encourage them to repeal this bill, as well as talking to candidates who are interested in serving in the legislature. I admire very much, Kim, you being open to a discussion. And as I spoke last week with State Rep Laura Lanise from Central Ohio, who is actively trying to repeal, develop support to repeal this bill. She said, it is a tough battle, but you have to reach out and make calls and emails and let these legislators know how we feel.
Right. I mean, it's almost shocking that it's a tough sell to repeal this bill when it was obviously passed in a completely fraudulent manner. It should be a no-brainer, but it's not the way the world works sometimes, unfortunately. All right, so do you want to just explain briefly, what did HB6 actually do for renewables? What changes did it make that was going to hurt any kind of forward progress with this?
Well, it eliminated the renewable portfolio standard. And that, was the most important piece. It also, and I think Belinda would know more about the energy efficiency resource standard, but so it basically took us back to 2007. I mean, we're talking going backwards instead of moving forwards. And the repeal bills that I have seen, including the one that introduced by Representative Lanise, take the whole thing out, just act as though House Bill 6 was never passed. And, that's what we need to do. We need to just get rid of it. And you mentioned the fact, the fraudulent, so there's two things. People who would argue, there was fraud involved, but the policy is solid. Well, the policy is not solid. And yes, it was. The accusations are shocking of the dark money and, the collusion, whatever. But beyond that, the policy was bad policy. And so there's no reason to keep it at all. And we're all hoping that the legislature will agree.
And one part of House Bill 6 that is so detrimental is that it removes the requirement for utility companies to offer rebates and incentives so that businesses in particular and schools, public entities can get rebates on implementing energy efficiency measures. Those go away. In DP&L territory, they're going to end at the end of this year. And that removes a lot of the incentive for businesses to make these changes. So it's just terrible.
Right. And that must impact a lot of jobs in that in that sector, because as you said, we've been building and building and making all these improvements, and if all of a sudden it's cut
Yes.
off,
Yes.
all of that's going to go away.
Yes.
Yeah, not good.
Okay.
All right, so we know what we don't want. What do we want to see? I mean, hopefully, like you said, this is a really important area that we have to have really strong policy on, and waiting for a new legislature to be put in there. Hopefully I'll be there too, is probably a really critical component. I do love the fact that you guys mentioned earlier that at the local level, cities and townships and schools, etc., are stepping up to fill that void, because I think that's where change happens across the board in many different areas, you know, is from the ground up. And I think that kind of change is a more stable and a more comprehensive change than the legislation coming down. You know, better to come up. So
Yes.
yeah, so what do we want to see in a new bill, do you think?
Well, we certainly want to see a renewable portfolio standard and an energy efficiency resource standard that includes incentives. I think one of the problems, and this is really something that we've talked about for, I don't know, 5 years, is that Ohio has a very inconsistent policy pattern. You pass something and then you repeal it, or within rulemaking, rules change, and companies, large companies that want to come to Ohio, that want to invest in Ohio, they need certainty. They need to know that the rules aren't going to change once they put their significant amount of capital investment on the ground. And whether it's a wind farm or a solar, a utility scale solar, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, states that are open for business are very conscious of what they can do to make it an attractive place for investment. So whatever we take on, we need to be consistent and stay on the same path.
Well,
and Kim,
said.
what
really
would you
good
like? I
point.
don't know how you would answer that.
I would,
I mean, sorry.
go ahead, Kim.
No, go ahead, Belinda.
I was just going to say, following up on what Jane said, that energy efficiency standard piece of it is critically important.
Mm-hmm.
It has driven this clean energy economy, whether it's making energy efficiency appliances or in the factory jobs, or the installation crews who work on our lighting projects. It's just that energy efficiency portfolio needs to be reinstated.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Ohio is behind in job creation, you know, compared to the national average. I think we're about half of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that constantly changing regulations is a contributing factor to mm-hmm. that. You know, when you have states and cities that kind of pit against one another with these offers of, you know,
absolutely,
property tax rebates, you know, they're mm-hmm. fighting amongst themselves who can give away the most taxes, which I disagree with as a principle. But yeah, we have to make Ohio as attractive a state as possible. And you know, and this is the future.
It's interesting because a lot of those companies, yes, all of that, the tax incentives, whatever, that's very attractive, but they also think about their employees, and their employees want to live somewhere that where there's a value placed on environmental protection and clean energy and the future. They want to raise their families where there's green space. They, you know, all the things. It's, you really, even though we focus on energy, clean energy, you really can't separate it in many ways from the other issues that accompany it, like clean water, like clean air, like green space. And so, you know, that's a very important piece that I think people need to recognize is we are a net loser of population. Ohio has had more loss of population than it has gained over the past few years. And I'm sure the census will show that. And why is that? Is it because, you know, jobs in the future, in the industries of the future? I think in part.
Agree.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I did some training with Policy Matters Ohio just this week, and they said, you know, if you take the top 10 types of jobs that we have in Ohio, with the largest group, so the largest amount of jobs, 6 of those 10 all pay basically enough to put you on Medicaid. You know, 6 of the top 10 jobs are so low paying that they're not enough for a family to live a life with dignity, frankly. So, you know, we do need to be looking towards bringing in better paying jobs that provide people with opportunity for themselves and their families, or that net loss you just mentioned, Jane, is going to continue.
Yes.
So what's the wind setbacks law? Just to jump back a little bit, that is the law that provided a massive wind set that kind of eliminated wind technology from our state, like practically.
Yes, it was. It was an unfortunate change to the siting requirements that had originally been approved. And with the intent of making it impractical from a financial standpoint for developers to invest in wind farms. Now, there is one, I just participated yesterday in an Ohio Power Siting Board administrative hearing on a new wind farm in Huron and Erie counties. And so there are developers who are moving forward. But we are still trying to get that changed. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is something that needs to change in order for us to really take advantage of the growth in that industry that could be there.
Right. And we're losing that to other states too. Isn't Michigan one of the states that's benefiting from wind technology?
Well, if you drive from Ohio to Chicago, for instance, and you drive through Indiana, I remember the first time I was driving there with my daughter who was moving there. It was night, and you see all these red lights flashing, and I thought, that can't be an airport. There's too many. And as we approached it, we could see that it was just miles and miles of beautiful wind turbines. And I admit to thinking they are beautiful. I understand some people don't, but yes, other states are investing and making it more, are much more compatible to wind development than we are at the moment.
Right. Good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Belinda and Jane. It looks like we've run out of time, but I appreciate the two of you coming on today and talking with me and with the voters out there about what we can do to push Ohio forward in a greener way, so that, you know, well, the benefits are better employment, cleaner environment, money savings, the list goes on and on. So it's definitely a way I think we should be heading. So I think one of the main points we got out of this is call your state rep and your state senator and tell them to repeal HB6.
Yeah,
we need everyone on board with that. So,
absolutely.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Kim.
you coming
Good
on,
luck.
and we'll talk again. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Mhm.
All right. Bye. All right. So let's just wrap this up by talking about what we're going to do next week. We are going to have a representative from NAMI, I think that's how it's pronounced, NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And we are going to talk about the state of Ohio and what kind of condition its mental health services are in. So this is another public service that is unfortunately at the whim of funding issues. So we are going to, talk about mental health next week. So I hope you can tune in. So thank you everyone for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. Bye.